asked all the time about what the best parts are right now for a gaming PC build. And in truth, that's quite a difficult question to answer because it depends on how much you want to spend, what you want to use your gaming PC build for, and a myriad of other factors. But there are definitely some hardware options out there that are better than others. So in this video, I'm going to be recommending the best parts you can buy right now, covering off everything from my favourite CPUs to GPUs to motherboards, and including a few options for a range of different budgets. Let's do this! Corsair IQ Link is a smart component ecosystem that takes your connectivity and RGB to the next level without the cable clutter. You can synchronize and control up to 14 individual devices with just one IQ Link system hub, connecting your devices together with a single cable for power and data. No need to get frustrated with complicated cable management anymore with this easy system that links each device to the next. Buy your IQ Link setup at the first link in the description below. You can use the navigation bar to skip between different component categories, and I'll be using Newegg for my live pricing. I'll leave Newegg and Amazon affiliate links down in the description below. Now let's start off with CPUs, shall we? What are the best CPUs out there? AMD and Intel are obviously your two options with CPUs. We are expecting an Intel 14th gen refresh very soon, though the rumours are that it might not be that great. And AMD have been really price competitive. I personally love the Ryzen 5 7600, the X or the non-X variant for those shopping on a budget. And if we take a look on Newegg, you can see that the Ryzen 7600 is currently at a pretty compelling price point. $249 for the 7600X at present. That's got to be the lowest price according to Newegg for the last 30 days, while the normal 7600 non-X comes in at $226. Now, to be fair to our friends over at Intel, if we put the 13600K in, that's pretty evenly matched with the 7600X. You can see you're paying $320. Drop down to the KF and it's $286, but here, AMD are clearly the slightly better value option. In terms of higher end CPUs, you've got the Ryzen 7, Ryzen 9 lineup. I'm a huge fan of the 7800 X3D, and while Intel's 13th gen chips pulled a lead when they first launched about a year ago, hence we're expecting a refresh, the 7800 X3D has pulled it back for AMD. Now you can see here that this is quite expensive, $449, but you can get $64 off. I've seen this go for sub $400 across a range of retailers. Now when it comes to a motherboard for one of the CPUs that you might choose to pick up at the moment, what are the best options? With AMD boards, you've got X670 and B650 are the two main chipsets. A620 also exists as a nice cheap option for those wanting to save a bit more cash. While Intel, you've got Z790 and B760. Again, we've seen new refreshed Z790 motherboards announced in anticipation of the Intel 14th gen processors, so perhaps either steer clear of existing Z790 motherboards while you wait for new refreshed options with more features, or take now as an advantageous time to buy a Z790 motherboard for a slightly lower price as brands look to clear these out before the refreshed, updated wave come in. As far as some good motherboard options go, this ASRock B650M Pro RS is one of my favourite budget boards. At $120, it's basically the same price as an A620 board I picked up not that long ago. That's a really great deal. You can also find something like this Gigabyte X670 Aorus Elite AX as an awesome value X670 board. Currently just $279 on Newegg, but you might find lower pricing elsewhere. While the MSI Pro X670-P is really great value right now as well. Sub $200, which is where it's sat for a little while. Obviously on these cheaper X670 boards, you're going to get less overclocking headroom, worse power delivery, but the point still stands that if you want to pick up a cheap motherboard, now is not a bad time. As far as B760 boards go, again, great mileage. ASRock have got one for $120, kind of crazy, but even Gigabyte coming in with some boards around the 150, 140 mark. Scroll a bit further and you can see MSI have got a full fat ATX B760 board with Wi-Fi, with DDR5 memory support for the $159 mark. Really, really great value, and there are some awesome motherboard options right about now. That brings me on nicely to RAM or to memory. What are some great memory deals? Now, basically, if you're building a gaming PC and you're spending $1,000 or more, you're going to be going with DDR5. And to be honest, I'd recommend picking up 32 gigs or more. And the reason for that is quite simple. A little bit of a scroll and a bit of persistence through some of the memory options, and you can see that DDR5 pricings come right down. Taking a quick look and you can see here this team group stuff is not particularly attractive, but at $79 for 32 gigs, it's basically price parity with DDR4, while a bit more scrolling and a bit more persistence, and you'll see more and more DDR5 kits pop up for decent prices. This G.SKILL kit here, which looks a bit better, comes in at $92 US. Even this Team Group T-Force Vulcan comes in for $84 US. I mean, wow, for DDR5 memory, while DDR5 T-Force Delta 6000 megahertz coming in at $94. You can see now why I'd really not recommend going for a 16 gig kit, as it's only going to save you $20 or so when there are so many decent DDR5 memory deals out there. But there are even better deals on a memory-related component than RAM, and that's SSDs. Now watch this. When it comes to an SSD, in my opinion, and it's a bold opinion again, you should be going for a Gen 4 NVMe at minimum right now. And let me show you why. Corsair MP600 Pro XT, decent drive, 1TB, with a heatsink, $74. What? But make no mistake, this is not a one-off. WD Black SN850X, you're going to see 6 to 7 gigabytes on the read and the write. That's what, 12 times quicker than the fastest SATA SSDs, more than 2 or 3 times faster than Gen 3 NVMe's, $80. That's WD's highest end drive, the SN850X, I believe. You can get a 2TB for $139, but it gets better. Let's take a look, for example, at the SSD 990 Pro. This is Samsung's new flagship Gen 4 NVMe, and for $80 you can get a 1TB version of the 990 Pro. For $140 you can get a 2TB, and $160 you can get them with the heatsink. They've come down in price so much. And the options don't stop there either. You can actually get this silicon power drive, pretty reputable brand, great reviews, great ratings, for $78 for 2TB. Now it is only 5,000 on the read and 4,800 on the write, but that's still way quicker than any Gen 3 NVMe, and $77 for 2TB. It really is totally insane. Even MSI are joining the party with their Spatium M460, $69 for a terabyte. What more could you want? Now, I know what you probably want. You probably want a great deal on some GPUs. Now, GPUs, I can search through Newegg all day, every day, and start listing off what they've got on offer, but GPUs is more clear-cut, in my opinion, as to which cards right now are good value and which cards aren't. So let's break this down. On the AMD side, you've got Radeon 6000 and Radeon 7000. On the NVIDIA side, you've got RTX 4000 and RTX 3000. This is where we're going to get controversial. In my opinion, at present, the only NVIDIA 40 series GPU that is worthwhile and worth considering is the RTX 4090. For anything cheaper, barring maybe the 4070 Ti is okay, AMD have got a better answer. Let me explain. Spending $200, get the RX 6600. Spending about $250, maybe consider Intel Arc, but be careful as their A750 and A770 won't be for everyone. Drivers are nowhere near as stable as AMD and NVIDIA, but they are getting better. Spending $300 and you want to look at either the RX 7600, but more preferably the RX 6750 XT. That's a card that performs incredibly well at 1440p and doesn't have the VRAM limitations of the 7600, the 6600, the 4060, the 4060 Ti 8GB. You get the gist. Want to spend a little bit more? Take a look at the AMD RX 7800 XT or the 6800 XT. The last gen 6000 series card has proved popular for those on a bit more of a budget, but we like AMD's new mid-range offerings. Well, if you want 4080 kind of performance, I would instead recommend picking up an AMD Radeon 7900 XTX. It simply delivers better performance at a better price. Now, with everything in life, there are of course caveats. AMD GPUs aren't quite as strong on ray tracing. AMD FSR 3 isn't out and rolled out and potentially as good as DLSS 3. If you want content creation and want NVIDIA's dual AV1 encoders, then the 40 series is better. You get the gist. But the point is, if you're looking for a GPU right now and don't really know where to start, obviously some GPU benchmarks, and we will link some in the cards, are obviously useful, but look more towards AMD at the moment than NVIDIA. It's safe to say there are not many great deals out there. Let me just give you one example. Let's say you do want to buy a next-gen 1080p GPU. That leaves you with the RX 7600 or the RTX 4060. You can buy, what? A 7600 currently from ASRock for $239. Now, ASRock tend to be the cheaper options, so let's go up the range. Sapphire 254, XFX triple fan design for $249. So for $249, $250, you can buy a multitude of 7600. You've got choice. Move through to the RTX 4060, which is NVIDIA's closest rival. The cheapest card I can find is this small, compact MSI Ventus for $299. That's it. There is nothing else. Okay, sorry, I lied. $289 for a poorly reviewed solo 8GB 1-fan Zotac gaming. But the cheapest 2-fan card is $299, and there are even GPUs going for $320, but for more than that, it's mad. And I'll give you one more example just to illustrate my point here. Let's say you want a mid-range GPU, you want to spend $500. AMD gives you the RX 7800 XT. That's a card that we think is pretty good. You might think that the 6800 XT is more compelling, so check both of those out. You can find here cards for $499, $529, $519. Let's say $520. What can you get? You can get a 7800 XT. On the NVIDIA side of the equation, the RTX 4070 is probably as close performance-wise as you're going to get, but that's going to cost $599 or $589 after the rebate. Going through the lineup, there's nothing any cheaper than that, leaving you really with the 4060 Ti 16GB as really the only viable alternative option if you want to spend about $500. And you can see for $499 you can get one of those, and take a look at our performance graph. The RX 7800 XT completely destroys the 4060 Ti. It destroys the 4070 and often also in some occasions the 4070 Ti. My point is, if you're looking for price right now, NVIDIA just aren't competitive. So that's CPUs, memory, SSD, motherboards, GPUs covered off. What about cases? Let's round things off with some cases. No one wants to talk too much about power supplies. I'll link my favourite power supplies below, save you the time. Let's have a look at what good PC case options there are right now. Now, in terms of more budget-oriented PC cases, it would be safe to say that Lee & Lee have got some decent options, but one of my favourite budget case manufacturers right now is Montech. Now, I looked at some of their stuff at Computex this year. I've tested a load of stuff in our studio and been really impressed. You can find, for example, the Air 903, a case we recently featured in a build, card section now, $72. 3 fans at the front, 1 at the rear, RGB, mesh. It's very, very, very well built. Lovely case. Want to go cheaper? There's the Montech Air 100 with 4 RGB fans installed, ARGB fans as well, so you can adjust them nice and easily. And you can see why at this price point, Montech have kind of got the market a little bit sealed up. Want to spend a little bit more money, and there's a few good options out there that I definitely recommend you look at. Lee & Lee have got some really great shouts at the moment. Their LAN-Cool range is really nice for about $100. It rivals something like the Corsair 4000D Airflow, but gives you the extra RGB fans included as standard, meaning you haven't got to pay that little bit extra money for something Corsairified. The Height Y60 remains one of my favourite cases. That's going to cost you quite a bit more. And once you get to that level, you're starting to consider Thermaltake, Corsair and Cooler Master on that slightly higher end of the market. I love the Y60 though. For $179, I think that's a pretty good deal. Don't also discount motherboard manufacturers. Asus's recent Hyperion case looks amazing. Saw that in person, love it. And MSI have also been filling the market with some nice mid-range options that don't break the bank, but do the job nicely, such as their new Gun Year edition, which I'll also link a review to in the cards section now. So where are we at? What's the state of the market? CPUs, go AMD. Wait to see what Intel do with 14th gen, and then any, I suppose, subsequent price drops on 13th gen. Motherboards, that's a more personal decision. We recently did a video on how to pick the best motherboard. Check that out in the cards now. But ASRock tend to be a great value shout, while MSI and Gigabyte are increasingly competing in that great value segment. As far as RAM goes, 32 gigs of DDR5 and above would be my starting point. You can easily get a kit for $100 or even a bit less if you're not so bothered about RGB and the super low latency options. As far as NVMe storage goes, flagship NVMe storage will cost you $100 for a terabyte. I can't believe I'm saying that. Such good value. While $150, or well under to be honest, will get you 2 terabytes of the latest flagship storage. Cases, you've got Montech really sewing up the budget end of the market. We'll move through into the mid-range of the market, and you've got the likes of NZXT, Lee & Lee, Corsair and Cooler Master to give you plenty of options. On the high end, I love the Height Y60. Personal fan, bit biased, it's in my personal rig at home, and that's a case that's also starting to fall in price. And then GPUs, that's where it gets a bit controversial. Top of the range card, you want the best of the best, get the 4090. Shopping on a budget, the 6750 XT. Want something in the middle, go for the 7800 XT, or of course the RX 6800 XT. Do you guys agree with my recommendations? What do you think of some of the deals that we found today? Let me know in the comments down below. And if you enjoyed this video, get subscribed so you don't miss any more from the GeekaWhat channel. Thank you for watching, and as always, we'll see you in the next one.